Well, I think we're hitting afternoon for some people. So welcome to this webinar. We really appreciate you joining us today. The focus of this webinar is going to be about our upcoming faculty workshop. And so before we dive in, I'll introduce myself. For those of y'all who are joining us for the first time, I'm Megan Lippy. I'm one of the co-investigators with ELNEC that support work in the schools of nursing. And I'm joined today by Dr. Andrew Davis, my colleague from the University of Portland. I'm based in San Antonio. So we're very glad to have y'all here today. So just a little roadmap. We're going to start by doing a brief overview of how what happened last summer in the workshop, just so you can get a sense of what this might look like. And then I'll hand the reins over to Dr. Davis, who will talk more specifically about the process for you to apply, and we'll definitely have opportunity and time for any questions and answers related to the workshop and application process and all that. So we'll
try to anticipate many of them. But while we're getting started, you can see the screen, correct? You can see the slides.
Mm-hmm.
And would you just let us know where you're joining us from in the chat? That would be fun. Okay.
Alrighty. So next slide.
Oh, sorry, I'm over here trying to mute myself. There we go.
Okay. We do like to acknowledge that the work that Dr. Davis and I do is funded by the Cambia Health Foundation. So we like to always give thank yous to that support. And also March, the 25th anniversary of ELNEC. So this year is a big year of celebration with the 25th anniversary. So yay, happy anniversary to ELNEC. All right, next slide. Okay, so we're going to talk about, we talked about this already, the workshop and where we're headed for this coming year. So one of the things we like to sort of ground our thinking about this in is this idea of reimagining the when, where, and how of palliative and end-of-life care. That there's a lot already happening in academic settings and in clinical practice settings where students have opportunities to engage in palliative care. It's not always seeking out those specialty placements, that it's helping us as faculty to think about where are those ready-made opportunities and how do we elevate those within our curriculum or modify existing simulations or other things to really amplify the palliative care content. And that's something that we thread throughout the workshop as well, is that we don't think schools have to completely go back to the drawing board and reinvent their curriculum to integrate palliative care. But there's already a lot happening, but how do we as faculty call attention to that? How do we help our colleagues who are doing, who are teaching in our programs to see all of that? So you'll hear us talk about reimagining quite a bit through all of our webinars, and it'll probably come up today as well. Next slide. So last summer, in July, we had our first workshop. This was held at the University of Portland. Our faculty team is on the right, and those members of our team will be back this summer, and we'll have other people joining us as well. We'll talk about our faculty later. The workshop was a 2-day event hosted at the University of Portland, which will be the host again this coming year. But it was a really fantastic event, and we're thrilled to have funding to be able to do that again. Last year, it was sponsored by University of Portland, ELNEC, and the Cambia Health Foundation. And this year we have a new funder, and we'll recognize them in a minute. Last workshop, we had 111 participants who represented 38 different states, including Hawaii and Alaska. So we had we were coast to coast as well, and 84 undergraduate nursing programs. The last summer was only undergraduate, and that's changing this year. So we're excited to share some new updates for graduate faculty as well. So I'm sure many people are now well-versed in our spheres of care, but the workshop specifically focuses in on the hospice palliative supportive care sphere. The workshop's not about what is palliative care. That we encourage faculty to get through ELNEC summits and other ELNEC courses. Our workshop is specifically focused on how do you teach this sphere? How do we integrate and thread this throughout our curriculum? How do we prepare practice-ready nurses who can engage in palliative care? at the end, last summer was the entry level, and then this year we'll be looking at entry and advanced level. Also, in case you're new to us and you're not aware of some of our documents, our resources we do have sets of competency statements, similar like Houston competencies, some of these more global competency statements for palliative care. The undergraduate version is called CARES, Competencies and Recommendations for Educating Undergraduate Nursing Students. And then our graduate version is GCARES. We, in our workshop, want to focus on competency-based education principles. And so this coming year, we will really be leaning into these CARES and GCARES as the competency framework for our entry and advanced level nursing programs. So if you're curious, those are on our ELNEC faculty corner. We'll share that website at the end of this, but I encourage you to check those out. So the workshop last summer, and we're actually going to follow a very similar structure this coming year. We started off with a session from Dr. Jacqueline McMillan Bowler from Duke University, who is an expert in competency-based education. She'll be joining us again this summer to really just ground us in what is competency-based education and how does it apply to palliative care. And then we followed sort of a backward design approach to even our workshop and starting to think about strategic planning, evaluating student learning outcomes, how we create our learning environment. And we also had small lab sessions which were much more hands-on, sort of actually diving into the student teacher role to experience what it's like to teach this content. So we have different labs. And this is sort of just a summary of who came last year, and we know it's going to look quite different this coming year. Majority were BSN programs. The requirement was undergraduate, so we did if you had to teach BSN or ADN. Again, this year we're having a graduate option, so that'll be different. Faculty training ran from, we actually had some faculty who had bachelor's degrees all the way up to doctoral degrees. So the degree you have does not matter. We just like to capture that. We wanted to know who was using ELNEC resources already, and under half of them, the faculty before the workshop mentioned they were using ELNEC undergraduate, and just around almost a third said they weren't using any resources. That was not a requirement to apply. You did not have to be using ELNEC resources to be eligible. We wanted to just support faculty wherever they were in supporting the work of palliative care education in their school. Tended to be a lot, smaller class sizes. It was fairly split though. Just over half of the programs were in person, and we do in our workshops try to think about faculty teaching in person, online, and in hybrid programs and clinical. We try to make sure we're covering a wide array of where this palliative care education occurs and in what modalities. Many faculty talked that they co-taught palliative care, so they were not the only faculty teaching the content. They might be the one leading this work, but they do have colleagues they work with to teach this. And the content spread, just under half was in theory, but simulation and clinical was also reported as places where this formal content was integrated in their programs. Next slide. We ask at the application stage for all faculty to come up with 3 goals related to palliative care education in their school, and it's their personal goals for things they seek to accomplish for their program. And we did some initial sort of thematic analysis of those, and faculty came to our workshop with goals related to curriculum development. Some were interested in teaching strategies, and then a small subset wanted to understand the content. And we do just want to clarify that, again, this is not a workshop where we're going to teach what is palliative care. We route people to other resources related to that. Faculty who are selected to attend are required to complete either the ELNEC undergraduate or ELNEC graduate modules before they come, so they can at least have the same content that their students would complete if they were using the modules. We also then, we'll come to that in a second. So that was where people came from. We had different baseline measures that we then assessed immediately after the workshop. And we saw that there were significant increases just after those 2 days in perceptions of their comfort in teaching this content, their perceived competence to teach palliative care, And also their thoughts on the responsibility of the nurse to provide palliative care. The other two, the importance of palliative care and the ability of students to learn the content were not significant because they started pretty high to begin with, for the most part. So fairly stable there. Yeah. And then we also have a list in our application of different palliative care concepts, and just wanted to know at baseline, what did they perceive as their preparation, like their can't talk, their preparation to teach the content, right? Across these different subjects. And so we did find that together, those of you who are interested in stats, it was a pretty strong instrument. It had a good internal consistency, reliability, but more significantly is from pre to post, we saw significant improvement in people's thoughts on their preparation to teach, which was what we were hoping for, that in coming to this workshop, you leave with more resources, more ability to then go back and feel prepared to teach this to your students. So we achieved the outcomes we were hoping for. And then again, that initial post-workshop survey asked faculty to revisit those initial goals and to see if they still hold true. And if not, change them. And then faculty will use those goals in the coming year to see how they're making progress towards making those changes they want in their program. And we did find across the goals about a quarter of the participants changed. Some of the individuals came and their initial application goal was to meet ELNEC faculty. Well, that was already met. So some of those goals were changed. But we did want people to have that opportunity to really reflect on, does this, now that I have all this information, is this really what I want to do in the coming year or not? And then we are currently collecting 6-month data from people. So we're excited to see how people are doing and making progress towards those goals. We don't know yet though, that's in progress. And we wanted to see our sessions. One of the things that we were very thrilled about, because the first time you do something, you don't know how it's going to go. You hope it's going to go well, but you don't ever know. So we were thrilled to see that this is out of 5, that we had very high evaluations across all of our sessions. Faculty are wonderful and provided very helpful constructive feedback that we are taking in mind as we consider this coming year. And so this next year is going to be bigger and better than last year. So we're thankful for those faculty who shared their thoughts with us about how what worked well, what they liked, and then also those opportunities for improvement. And then I'm going to end my part with just some exciting quotes that we heard. This is again in that initial evaluation. I learned a lot about new approaches or ideas that I can share. This is a workshop focused on how you teach this content. So we wanted people to leave with strategies. People loved all the resources. Now, we did have some people say, wow, there are so many resources that you've shared, just gave to us. It's going to take me some time to digest it, but we at ELNEC believe we want to just give the resources to faculty to do this work. So lots of resources, lots of ideas they're taking with them. They want even more on how we create these classroom environments. One person could say this was the best conference they'd ever been to. And so for us, we felt very, very excited about that comment as well. So yeah. Anything else you want to add on that?
No, the other thing, I mean, as she mentioned, it feels good having this idea and then bringing it to life in a way that we thought would be engaging for folks. And then in fact, it was. So that felt really good. And we've at various meetings continued to hear from folks. Maybe some of you on the call have colleagues that attended and continue to be our greatest advocates for the workshop. So that energy seems to have continued. We really are looking forward to looking at what came of that. So it was a good workshop. Now, our hope is that folks are going back and then, operationalizing some of that. So let's talk now for a little bit about how it's going to look, and more specifically, kind of the process for applying. for you all. And I'm wondering because Dr. Lippy mentioned a couple of times that we refer folks that are interested to summits where you can learn the content. If Ryan, who's on the call here from ELNEC, might pop in a flyer or information about those upcoming workshops. There's one in April in Hawaii. That's just a little rabbit hole I went down. But if you're interested in those workshops, the summits are the place to go. So we are doing this again, July 24th and 25th, back to this workshop in Portland. So make sure that those dates are available for starters. Here's our faculty, in addition to Dr. Lippy and I, who are not on this because we're here right now and it took up too much space. So we have, as you can see, some of the all of the faces from last year will be returning with the addition of one, two, three folks to expand what we have to offer. And so let's talk about the information for you. So here's what happens. You apply and the selected participants have free registration. We have, you can see the funders here in the middle. Again, ELNEC, City of Hope, University of Portland, and our new donor is Cunip-Dixon Foundation. They will actually be representatives from the organization will be at the conference. They're very excited to support this workshop. So all of these folks are covering for attendees, registration, continuing education, housing for up to 3 nights if it's needed. Ryan did put it, it looks like it's Andrea that put it in the chat there, information about Hawaii. So the housing is, we had a good time last year. It was in the dorms. So you check in, you get your towel and your washcloth, and you head off to your dorm room. And it was a lot of fun. Everyone has, I mean, you certainly have the choice, and we can give you information about hotels. But that, if you don't stay on campus, that's not covered. But it's a beautiful campus, and the rooms are big, and you have your own room. You won't be sharing a room. So more on that, as we move down the pike. But that, just so you know, that's what we're doing. And breakfast and lunch for both days is also covered through the grant. We have a reception on one evening, but dinners are folks are off to do their own thing for the evenings. And then the course materials, as Megan mentioned, we have a lot of resources that many of us have spent a lot of time creating. So we're excited to share those again. So who should apply? We prefer that folks that are employed at least a couple of years at an institution. We certainly had people that wasn't the case for, but they had been sort of the point person, if you will, by their director or the dean potentially to lead this initiative at their school. But those of you that, everyone here is at a university, it takes a little while to figure out who's doing what, right? So we sort of want the folks that come to have that sort of foundation at their school. But if that's not the case, don't let that be a barrier. Up to 2 faculty from the same institution will be accepted. They won't necessarily be accepted, but they can apply. So 2 people can apply, and everyone needs to submit their own application. And you obviously want to be teaching within an undergraduate or a graduate program. So if you're thinking about somebody else from your school, it might be that both of you want to focus on the undergrad program, or one is coming that sort of represents undergraduate, and then one might be focused on the graduate program. So how that looks will just depend on your situation. So we have enough funding for 100 undergraduate and 50 graduate faculty. The number of graduate is smaller because we have fewer graduate programs. And then at the bottom here, I do have a QR code here coming up in a second that takes you to the application itself. One of the things I think that's important is, Dr. Lippy shared some data from the first workshop. We are trying to articulate the impact of these workshops, right? And so we ask people, because this is funded, to be committed to completing, coming up with goals, like what do you really want to do with the information that you get, and share that with us. Tell us what you're doing at 6 months and 1 year later. And we are really here. We're part of a grant to support schools of faculty at schools of nursing. So it's really not only what is the impact that these workshops are making, but how can we continue to support and help you along that journey, right? Let's see. One of the things that wasn't on that other, I don't think we actually have it on a slide, but if I go back here, one of the criteria that we ask for at the time of when you go in to start the application, you want to kind of articulate your goals, but also we ask that you have a letter of support from your director or dean that says, yes, this doesn't have to be anything fancy, but that they support you coming. Let's see what other. Here are the QR codes for the faculty corner, which we can take you to and show you around there. It's a host of resources for faculty. There's a link also on that website to apply. And then there's a direct application link to the application itself. So what we really hope to do through these workshops, and it really seemed to come to fruition last year, is foster connection, creativity. As she mentioned, people change their goals. And I think largely that's because of the collaboration and the interaction that people had with others and the things that they learned and how they wanted to sort of shift their focus. It's very collaborative, very interactive. We will have track, yeah, right, we're calling them tracks, like undergrad or graduate. We'll have sort of sessions where we peel off. Maybe we're going to talk about communication, but we're going to pull all the graduate faculty away and let you have sort of talk about the particular application of those concepts for the graduate nurse. It models a supportive approach to lifelong learning among faculty. Maybe you have a passion for palliative care education. Maybe you're not sure how to proceed, but we're here to support all of us on that journey, ultimately contributing to advancing palliative care and nursing education. And I'm going to stop sharing. We're right at about not even halfway through our hour, so that's kind of nice. And let you just start asking some questions, or yeah, let's just start there.
Before we open up, I do want to just mention a little bit more, who are we, who is this designed for? We talk about faculty who teach in undergrad and graduate programs, and that's absolutely true. One thing to keep in mind is that we're wanting to use this to be sort of a train the trainer approach, where the faculty that comes is going to be a leader in their institution to advance the palliative care education initiatives. So this is not all faculty come to this, right? That the one or two people from the school that come are really those who are going to champion this work, and they can take back all the resources to their faculty. They can help coach the other faculty in their school on how to do this. So it really is, that's where that letter of support's important for us, is to see that the leadership of the school said, yes, we see this person as someone who's going to be able to support the curricular efforts related to this. So keep that in mind too. That there's probably people who want to come, but maybe aren't in that space. That's okay too, as long as it's like there's recognition from leadership that you're moving into that space. But if it's I don't really do anything with palliative care education, I just want to know more, this is probably not the workshop for you.
That's a good point. Two other things I want to add as we continued, or before we begin to have some questions. One is, if you are thinking about, maybe you do have expertise and you have some cool things going on at your school. We learned so much from people that came last year in that sphere because we invited folks to submit a poster. If you're accepted, you can submit a poster, which might help you get funding for travel. And we will have a time and space to share the work that you're doing. So we heard from people, we had, I don't know, 16 or something last year, and some really amazing things are going on. So I've lost my other point, but
Those posters or the abstracts for the posters, it can be works in progress, it can be completed works. We're not very strict with those. It is, again, we are wanting to hear from faculty what they're doing, but also it's a mechanism that if you need to be disseminating to get travel funds from your institution, tell us what you're doing and we'll, and you'll be able to present a poster. We do also then put those posters on our faculty corner, which is another mechanism of national dissemination. So it is a nice way to share what you're doing with others. We felt like there were times in the workshop we're like, why are we talking to y'all? Y'all are doing fantastic things. So Andrew, did your other thought come, or it'll come back to you?
No, I don't remember what it was, but it had something to do with the application. I can't remember, but do y'all want to just open the mic and ask questions or raise your hand, or if there's some piece of this that we've forgotten to mention?
We will FAQ this too. One question we've gotten from past participants is, can I come again? Yes, if you are coming to attend, if you want to apply for the graduate track. Individuals cannot come again for the undergrad because it's not really going to change. It's the same sort of workshop. So it is, yes, you can come again, but for the other track option. Well, this teaching strategies we shared. Yes, so the question about the teaching strategies, we do try to provide a wealth of resources that can be flexed across asynchronous, synchronous, clinical, in person, online, that in simulation, that we really try to have a wealth of resources, and not just make this about, in-person teaching for small classes. Like we really try to make this as flexible and speaking, reconceptualizing how these things might be modified in different academic learning environments. If that answers your question, Amanda.
Anybody have other questions? Let's see. Love to hear from you. Application deadline is April 1st, I believe. That's another important piece.
One thing too, as we think about FAQs, we do ask, or you do need to have that letter of support ready to upload at the time of the application. It is, once you go into it, it's a Qualtrics survey, but you will have to upload the letter with that application for it to be accepted as complete. And so, we had some people that didn't have it ready then, and so they either had to start their application over, or we had to try to figure out, other ways to make this work. We're going to ask this year that you have it ready to go, at the time of application, so that you have a fully complete, ready to go application, and there's nothing lingering out there. It needs to be fully ready when you hit it.
It's possible to add on to that if you're having a person come that's representing graduate and one undergraduate, you can share a letter, but each of you submit it. If that makes sense. Okay, we'll be quiet now. No questions. We did such a good job explaining the whole thing.
I do see some familiar names from last summer. So, we also welcome those of you who did attend. If you want to open your mic and share any thoughts, we welcome that too. Or any reflections on your application process or things, anything you want to share. We welcome you to do that.
I'll share. It's Carmen from Miami.
Oh, hi.
Hey, so I did, we were there last in the summer with Dr. Burke and myself, Michelle. And we're now finally, we have some student from the graduate program that are going to come on board and they're going to help us develop this curriculum using everything from ELNEC that you guys gave us. It was a wonderful experience. If anybody is thinking or on the fence about going, you should go. We were a little worried about the housing, but it was amazing. We met the most amazing people from other parts of Florida and we just became friends. And it was just worth it. Staying in a hotel would have not given us the same experience. So
Mhm.
we're very, very fortunate for that. And we're getting the ball rolling. We're also bringing in people from the graduate program at FIU so that we can start in the undergraduate department and then bring it to the graduate. So we're very excited and we're very thankful for you guys. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So
Nice to see you. You
yeah.
reminded me, Carmen, of my other thought that I had earlier.
Okay.
When you said materials, I was like, ding. Megan mentioned earlier the you ask if you're here for undergrad or graduate that you review the ELNEC modules. You will be given access to those modules, and you don't have to wait. If you're interested in looking at it at any time, you can just, Brian, you can put it in there, the email address if you would like to look at those modules. At any point, if you're a faculty anywhere, you have free access, but we will ask that you do that intentionally before the workshop. So that's sort of homework.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Carmen.
Oh, I see you're open, but I don't hear you, Ava. We're not hearing you.
I can't hear you still. Interesting. Maybe you increase your volume.
Or you might need to type it in the chat. Of course, the long thing, that's not fun to type.
Still can't.
Can read the list, but can't hear you.
Yeah, but you don't look muted, so something with your speaker. There is a link there in the chat while we're figuring that out, to access the curriculum.
So in terms of while we're hearing from Ava, in terms of accessing the application, there is a QR code on the flyer that Ryan just posted in the chat. You can also go to our ELNEC faculty corner and enter upcoming events. There is a whole page dedicated to the workshop. And on that is where, oh yeah, great. So if you go to ELNEC faculty corner, you scroll down to view schedule under upcoming events. And you'll see that when you click there, we have this webinar, but also the faculty workshop. And so you can go to view upcoming workshops and it'll take you to more information. Okay, so the question, does the letter of recommendation, is there anything specific that has to be included? What we look for is that it lists the faculty that are being supported. And just that the administration has identified, one or two people to be leading the palliative care initiatives in their program. This year it would be, we'd like to have it affirmed that, this person is supporting undergraduate or graduate education initiatives. Now many people are probably doing it across programs, in which case, those individuals will have to apply to just one of the track options. You can't do both because we'll have concurrent sessions for each track. So the one that you're maybe going to do more of the time in, or the one you most want to apply, but it can be very short. We don't need long letters. It's just, again, for us affirmation, it also gives us a second point of contact. If we don't hear from people with their 6 and 12-month follow-up surveys, after some reminders, it gives us another point of contact to say, hey, we need to be hearing from this person. So not very long, like some were like just a few sentences, and that worked for us. So
it's really stewardship to the funders, really, that are, we've said that we're trying to advance palliative care education through this mechanism. So let's see that you have leadership sort of support to do that. That's all. If you read, what is that?
Well, that was, I think it
Oh,
was,
that's a note taker. Oh, okay.
I have to say that popped up on my screen. I have no idea what that is, and my name's in front of it. I'm like,
I wonder if you have it programmed to automatically transcribe.
wow. I went into Zoom while you were talking because I don't recall doing that, but I will investigate and delete that little otter. But as long as I'm unmuted, I just want to say thank you. I'm an abnomaly for this group because I'm not in academia, but I teach with Susan O'Connor Vaughn, who is and attended your workshop. We teach both the geriatric and the core, if you will, on the outside, if you know what I mean. It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
yeah, and
I recognize you. Yeah.
yes.
So you teach the, yeah.
Yes.
saw
And
you
so
in,
it's so fun for
topic.
me to hear what you're doing because, of course, I'm old enough that in any of my nursing programs, this was never offered way back then, right?
Mm,
So I applaud you because it's so needed. And there's what Susan and I are witnessing is such hunger, really. People saying, I truly, part of, I believe, resiliency is feeling confident in what you're doing. So I've had the chance to attend several of the ELNEC way back in 2006 as a trainer, and then the ICC that was offered too. So you go, girls. I love it. Thank
Well,
you.
let's give the real credit where it is deserved. And that is the vision of Dr. Betty Farrell, who's
Absolutely.
the last place, sort of the last place where this doesn't exist is in nursing education. So it was her work that launched graduate, undergraduate, and then graduate. And this is all sort of as a result of that work in the, 2016 and 2019, right? So that's where the real applause goes.
Absolutely. And then you guys have carried that torch and continue to. So it's so exciting. When I started in hospice in 1989, we could find nothing that was translated into anything. When I just think how far this passion has come. So thank you.
Mhm.
And definitely to Betty and her current staff too.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll be back on mute and sometime I'm going to trap that otter that's jumped on.
Good to see you.
And Loris, for some reason, your name is showing up
I know, I'm a
on,
little bit confused here.
on camera. I am
Yes.
Susan O'Connor Vaughn. I don't know
Yes.
why.
Well,
Oh,
yes, because I think it is, and you can change your name because
oh,
yeah, because I kept going, how come there's two of us on here? Anyway, there's my friend Susan.
Okay,
I'm
hi
in St.
Susan.
Paul. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. I'm not in Florida.
Hello.
just before we conclude, by the way, it's lovely to see faces that we saw this summer, and I've seen some of the faces at other conferences, and it's great. So as just a reminder or a review, on the website, we do have an application checklist, but just to kind of review, we do need your contact information, and there will be things you enter for that. We do ask, and I don't think we've mentioned this yet, which is why I want to go over it. We do ask for like a 250 to 300 word, very short sort of statement of interest. What makes you want to attend this? What's your sort of current engagement in palliative care in your school? And it's okay to say, I don't do much, but
Yeah.
I've been appointed as the person to make this, to figure it out, right? So we're not looking for only people who are doing all of this, right?
Yeah.
We had people across the continuum at last
Mhm.
workshop. And then so why are you interested? What's your vision for things at your school? That's not something we say, oh, we like this person's vision over someone else. We're going to pick this person. That's not how we do it. We just want to know, where are you at this
Mhm.
one application?
Mhm.
You'll put your 3 goals. And then there's a few sort of baseline, we shared in this presentation some things we looked at pre and post. There is a series of questions in the application about the current state of palliative care education in your curriculum, some of your baseline perceptions or experiences with palliative care education, and then the letter of support. The letter of support is the very last item on the application. So you are able to kind of get through it and then have that letter uploaded at the end.
And that all that information is really helping us get a picture of the landscape of palliative care education across the country, which is a little bit vague, right? So it's really useful. And the reason that part of the bio, not really bio, but the little short thing that you do helped informed us in terms of like, here's what we thought we would be going for between what you shared there or what participants shared there and their goals. We sort of said, oh, all right, we're on track. So it will also inform that process again.
And then I just have one more sort of thing. And then we, again, like as people are thinking questions, we are really excited for this coming year. One of the changes we've made was based on our reflections from last time that we had a lab on loss and grief that helped us recognize there's a need to attend to faculty experiences with their own loss and grief and their journey with that. So one of our faculty who's joining us, Dr. Carolyn Phillips from University of Texas at Austin, is coming to do a special session with us on use of arts, but as a way for faculty to just kind of hold some space for their own, I don't want to say grief work, but we're going to have some time for faculty to delve into that a little bit more because we saw how critical it was or how necessary it was for so many of our faculty to have that space. So that's one of the new faces coming, and we're just so excited to see what she's going to do with that time. So exciting new things coming.
Well, if folks don't have any other questions, we don't have to keep you on until the top of the hour. And
So,
we are both available if something comes up afterwards to email us. Maybe we can each put our emails in the chat.
you can email us or email ELNEC directly. They route any school related questions to us. But if you have any issues with the application or questions or anything, please reach out to us. We are here to support y'all. And not just with the application. Again, our work is to support faculty in schools of nursing doing this, right? So
all right.
however
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
We look forward to seeing your applications.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing 150 people this summer.